So now we're going to turn to look at the quality of data and evidence category that you might need to fill in when you're doing your project on an area such as the ones that we discussed here. You notice you've been asked to provide an overview of the research history and current findings on the topic there in this bullet point here. So before you get to listing the conclusions that are based in the current literature, you're going to need to define the key concept and provide an overview of where things are currently with it. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do with this. Excuse me. It is, first of all, really important that you don't select just any article to map out the key concerns. Not the first article that you find or the one that seems the most relevant. Instead, try and use the Social Sciences Citation Index to find the most relevant the most cited article that is relevant to your topic, or use recent review articles in quality journals. I'm going to have a look at a couple of these now. So just to look at some of the examples that we were talking about there. One of the first things to bear in mind is one of the topics I mentioned was whistleblowing, and you'll do a topic search on a few different concepts here. Got to correct a typo live there, sorry. And say, for example, the topic of whistleblowing. One of the things that you'll find when you're kind of a concern if you're interested in the topic of whistleblowing would be that, it's spelled different ways. It's spelled as one word, it's spelled as whistleblower, is spelled as one word, as two words, and with a hyphen in the middle. You notice I put the wildcard asterisk there just at the end of that, and that's to capture all variations of whistleblower, whistleblowing, what other variations of those. So that requires you to do something slightly different then when you're doing your search on the Social Sciences Citation Index. So we'll look at that now. So I suppose one of the big difficulties that people would have, say, with a topic like whistleblowing, is that the common usage definitions of it actually don't match up to what what the research says, or even to what current thinking says. So if you put this into Microsoft Word here, if you put that term Microsoft Word and you do a thesaurus search, look at the results you get: informer, mole, snitch, grass, tattletale, telltale, stool pigeon, whatever stool pigeon is, I don't know. But anyway, the rest of those are very negative associations of the word whistleblower. Is it any wonder that we have people who are victimized for doing it? If I do a Google search on the same thing as well, I did a Google search on whistleblowing. What's another word for a whistleblower there? And we do that search, see what comes up. Yeah, spy, hypocrite, renegade, deserter, conspirator, impositor, turncoat, informer, defector, blabbermouth. Double crosser, sneak. I mean, this goes against really what we understand whistleblowing to be and what it's for. So let's do a search of the Social Sciences Citation Index there, using those three different main terms that I found it. If you can think of any other ones, don't hesitate to let me know. You'll notice here that I'm looking for whistleblow or whistleblow. So I'm looking for all different variations. In our previous search in the previous video, we had a combination of leader and narcissist. This is different. We're trying to capture them all, so we're doing this search here, and we click search. See what kind of results come up for us here. So there's a lot there. There's 1,165. So how do you find a study to help you ground your topic in? So first of all, let's go down, because there's so many different variations of it. Let's just focus on articles and reviews. And look, there's a lot of reviews there. Okay, so we click on that, and it brings us through to this list. And of course, we're going to go over to a citation report to find out which ones are the most cited on it. And off that goes. And of course, huge amount of growth of research there as well. And you've got two there at the top. You've got extra role behaviors in pursuit of construct and definitional clarity, a bridge over muddied water. So that's actually about extra role behavior. So I'm guessing that when we look inside that, that it might be it might look at whistleblowing as part of the general part of articles. We can look on that as well. Then we have this one. That's the most established one: Organizational Dissidence, the Case of Whistleblowing by Near and McKelly. I will look into the other one again, but I'm going to look at this one here first of all, and it brings up this one. Can't see an abstract there, so I'm going to click on full text, either in Maynooth or whatever way I can get into it. I'm logged into the databases now. Hopefully this will work. And I click on this, and this brings us up an article, the Journal of Business Ethics, which we know is a quality journal, and because it's an ABS 3 on the ABS ranking. And there we go. Research on whistleblowing has been hampered. This is going back about 25 years. So the point I'm making about this is that if this contains a definition of what whistleblowing is, then there you look at defining whistleblowing to be viewed as a process the whistleblower complaint the party has made. Earlier definitions were consistent, so there is a definition of whistleblowing in here. I won't go into it here now, but that's one that's the most longest established and most cited ones. So perhaps this is where you start off from. Another way of looking at it, to kind of look at what the most current findings are, is that if we go back to our Web of Science search and we just focus on what the reviews are and see where they have been published. So I'm scanning back through here again. I'm not saying that there's a shortcut to doing any of this. We're back to our 896 articles. You know, we had searched articles and reviews. Let's just focus on reviews this time. Okay, clicking on review articles. Let's see which ones of these were the most cited. Some of these, I saw one there just might be quite specific to an area of it rather than an overview of it. Yeah, we're down to extra role behaviors here as well, and this is a more recent one. So we can probably just, you know, the more recent ones are going to be less cited anyway. Let's see which ones we can find. March 2005 for looking for a relatively recent one here, and there should be one in 2019. Let's see what it's limited to this. 2019 to that. We're restricting the items to a short range. One publication. So this is the most recent review of whistleblowing. Whistleblowing over safe patient safety care. It's a review of the literature. Seems to be quite specific to health organization and management. That's not to say that there isn't something that might be of worth or value there. Yeah, so it's mainly about healthcare whistleblowing. And it may be worth a look at. So you can see what you're doing. You're trying to identify either through the most cited article or through review which articles, excuse me, are the ones that are most relevant to the topic that you're. So which articles are most relevant to the topic that you need to that you're looking into. Now, sometimes it won't be possible to access an article because, you know, it'll come up as online first or an early site. We had an example of this in the class just yesterday. So just to give you an example of how you can actually get the full text of those, it's important to, I suppose this is where the name of the publisher of the journal, which is something that you don't usually cite when you're in the referencing list, but it can help you find it. So the example of the article that the student had mentioned was one titled Making CEO Narcissism Research Great, Review and Meta-Analysis of CEO Narcissism. So how do you actually find where that one is? That is in the Journal of Management, so it's well worth looking at, even though it mightn't have come up in your search. Journal of Management, I think, is an ABS 4 star, or if not, it's definitely an ABS 4, but it's a very highly regarded journal that publishes a lot of very high quality literature reviews. So I'm going back to Minute Library here again, right to the start, because I need to get into another database. So it's a SAGE journal, and we actually have the SAGE journal database as part of the library databases. Yes, here again, you see SAGE business cases, SAGE journals online. So I'm clicking on SAGE journals online, and I'm really just putting that information that I got there into the first search box that comes up into SAGE journals. Okay, and I'm clicking on that, and search didn't return any results because I've already put in something that was a little incorrect. I'm just going to put the title in. So I do a title search in Sage Journal and it brings up the full article there, and this looks really good and relevant because although it's about CEO narcissism, it seems to and we can see that, you know, the reason that came up was narcissism, and leadership came up as a search term for the student. So what they're doing there is that if you look at it, it does really what the rest of this article is trying to do, and it's specific to CEOs, but it talks about identifying future research opportunities, you know, potential answers there to your question at the end of what the next stage of the research is too. And lots of discussions about how narcissism has been discussed in psychology. Looks really interesting if we had the time to read it. So on that we'll start looking at, you know, how do you actually write up this research section part of your the research section part, the methods part of your overview. So put your methods section first in your piece, or near the start of it. don't include extraneous information. If you're talking about narcissistic leadership, there's probably use the literature rather than other definitions that go and talk about its evolution from the narcissist myth or whatever like that. Let's get to the point on it, because you've got a limited amount of words. Demonstrate the search strings that you used and how you arrived at these. Talk about the type of searches that you did, the results that were coming up, the things that you worked better. Talk about the decisions that you made to use these search terms. Be clear that you've talked about the fields of search. The field search. Sometimes we encounter ones that say, I went to a library website or to Google and just typed in this term and this is what came up, and here are the first answers that we got. No, you're reviewing the evidence in this, okay? And then report on the headline results, like the years of publication, citation growth rates, categories, and source titles. One publication that you should look at, and I'm not saying this because for reasons of narcissism or anything. Well, maybe it is, and I don't know. I just think it's a clear account I think I give a fairly clear account on page 293 of this article for how this should look. I'm not saying copy it, but I'm saying that these are the type of information that goes into it. This is an article of mine that was published, in 2016 in the Journal of Nursing Management. And, you can ignore the topic, nursing management, religion, and spirituality. It's a bibliometric review, a research agenda, and implications for practice. And I go into these details in this section here. So just to show you how you can get that, also the Social Sciences Citation Index where you're there, what I did was you just put in the words nursing management and spirituality, like that with the comment, put in title, click search. I don't get any commission for this, by the way, so I'm not on the make. And there's the title of it. So then go to click free accepted article from repository. And there you got the article. Now you go down to page 293 on this article. Because I do a little bit of background defining there. The section is called evaluation. You're going to call it method. And look at the level of specificity that goes into there. Over the week of the 19th to the 20th of January 2015, the search term was entered, the wildcard search was entered, the topic search was used as is the most comprehensive. Don't copy this exactly or it'll come up as plagiarism. I go into the results that were given, the search terms that I was used, 104 hits, and then I talk on the next page. It's something I'm going to talk about in the next video, is about how I reduce these. But then I give a report at the end. Now this is what I mean by headline report. This is the type of stuff that you're going to be analyzing the articles for as you go through them. You might be able to use the abstract solely, but you can also use these as well. So page 293 and 294, 295 where I talk about the results, but page 293 is, you can see that's a fairly succinct summary of what this method part should look like. The part where you're trying to prove that you did quality and took a quality approach to reviewing data and evidence. In the next section, we're going to move up to looking at how you analyze that. We're going to look at some rigor, and then we're going to look at some deeper analysis and reduction of the data before we talk about the discussion and conclusion.